Well, John, it looks like it's 9:45. So I think we should go ahead and just get started and let students just keep coming into the session. Um,
All right.
we're so thankful that you're with us, Jaw, and appreciate your keynote session so much. I love how you say that opinions are, wait, let's see. You say that opinions are just someone else's rejection, right? Or
No, like rejection is just like people's opinion.
yes, that's right. I got it backwards.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you the opinion of the Nextech staff and the students is that we think you're awesome. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, in that case, the opinions are valued. So
exactly. So students who are with us and teachers, would you please just send your questions to Jaw? We have 35 minutes where he will answer any questions that you might have to him or for him. And Chandler says, that was an amazing speech. I can't say how many times I laughed and was amazed. You did an amazing job. So
thank you, Chandler.
Yeah. So Jaw, I kind of want to start a little bit about your background. Can you tell us how school in China compares to school in the United States?
It's well, in terms of social dynamics, you basically stay with your classroom for all classes and throughout the throughout the levels. And I'm pretty sure, I know it's the same thing with elementary school here, but when you go to junior high and high school, you started going to different classes, right, based on different what you're learning. But in China, what happens is you stay with one class, right? You just keep going, you keep moving up. You go to a different school in junior high and high school, of course, but every year you go up, it's the same people. So you don't pick a different classroom based on different subjects you're taking. So everyone's taking the same subject so that's, and also there is a big exam at the end of high school. That really determines your fate. If you do well, then you go to good colleges, and that kind of sets you up for life. That's something that's everyone. You build up this whole 12 years of school toward that big exam, right? It's like a combination, but if you fail, that's not good. So that's and then right here we do have all kind of different ways to. You have college application essays, you have reference letters and all that, activities. In China is all about that exam. If you can do well on an exam, you're good. If you don't do well, oh well.
Well, clearly you did well, right?
I actually didn't take that. I came here as a high school student, so I got the best of both worlds. I kind of got pretty rigorous training in all the academic stuff, but then when I just couple years before I had to take that monstrous exam that sucks all your life away from you. Basically, it's really hard. I came to here, so I didn't have to take that exam.
So it's interesting. So I had a question about when you got here. What were some of the first thoughts that you had when you came to the United States? Can you remember some of the things that surprised you? Or
oh yeah. When I came here, I did not go to a big city. As I mentioned, I went to rural Louisiana, right? And it's very different. There's not a whole lot of people. There are a lot of trees and stuff. So it was a total cultural shock. And also it's the deep South, in Louisiana. It was very different from the type of American things I saw, on TV. When I saw America on TV, it's like, through Hollywood movies, and it was all kind of great crazy stuff. When I got here is the rural area, but actually it got me to learn about America in a very multidimensional way, and so it was different, but I learned a whole lot.
Well, I have a question from Ambrose who says, did you instantly realize your life wasn't going how it was supposed to, or did you know and slowly get into this mind state to change your life around?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've always had this dream about being an entrepreneur, right? But the thing is, there are a lot of things in front of you as distractions, or I wouldn't say they're distractions. I think that the experiences I had were useful, right? I went to school. I made money, and I went to a graduate school. I got my MBA. I met a lot of my, awesome people, classmates. I met my wife at graduate school, and it's all good. But over the long term, I feels like when I was about to get older, and and I feel I was missing the boat. I was like, I should be doing. I've always had this dream, and now I'm going down a path where I won't be going after this dream. If I don't try this, I'll have a long-term regret. So it's really just, there's a lot of carrots in front of you. If you're not focused on the big picture, you would chase a little, you would chase a little carrot, and you get satisfied. But however, if you see that, I mean, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you start seeing that deviating away from your long-term goals and your dreams, then that's where you're like, I gotta give this a shot.
And Destiny says or asks, how does computer programming affect our everyday lives in your mind? And these questions are kind of where they're going to be lots of different topics.
Oh, it's a good question. I love them. Yeah. So as I mentioned that when I started, right, that was I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And when I was about your age, that's where the computer and internet really took off. You can see the whole thing really changed. Like there's almost like a pre and post internet era. It's just everything's different. So and that's where I started seeing a lot of people are getting into computers, and because computer science wasn't like a major that people go after back then, but you see how everything is changing, from the way we communicate, from the way we do shopping and commerce and transact differently. It's all online. So the big thing I see is the way we live, how we talk to each other and treat each other, but also what kind of talent go into computer science. It used to be that very few people were going to computer science. Like not few, but not as many now. But now, computer science is just like probably one of the most. If you have a mathematical mind, if you have some sort of engineering mind, it's one of the most popular and common ground jobs you get into, because it's going to keep going. It's not going to stop. If you get into this job, a technology related job, you can have a job for a long time. So that's why it has a real impact on the way we live, but also have a way we choose what kind of a majors and what kind of a career we go into. So I see this in many different ways.
Well, Maya has a great question. It's kind of a follow-up to that. Mm-hmm. How did you choose what kind of field in computer science you wanted to go in?
I mean, you mean this is for her, what she wants to go in, or what I want to go in?
How did you choose when you initially went down that path?
Great question. So the way I went down to this path was really utilitarian. Is what my family told me to do. They're like, if you're an immigrant, what's when a first generation immigrant, what you do is basically you want to find a job. You want to establish yourself, excuse me, economically. You want to you want to make money, right? You want to make sure that you can have financial freedom and do whatever you want later on. So when I started, that's my main goal. But what I found is it's a good way to get started. However, different people have different personalities. I just didn't have the personality to be a great engineer. And I got in the major, and I was powering through it just by sheer will. I was like, I'm going to learn this. I dreamed myself to be this kind of Bill Gates type of figure. I can program, but very quickly I found, wow, I'm not good. And especially in college, I got into the second year and especially third year computer science classes. They were really hard. And when I was in the same room, when I see everyone else, seems like they were figuring everything. They're like, every time the teacher said something, they were nodding their heads. And I'm the person that was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Like, I don't get it. So I was powering through this, but and then I felt I probably won't be able to. I'm not going to be a great engineer just because I see who's around me, and people have different personalities, and I'm not one of them. And then what's even more the biggest, the most I mean, example that showed me the most is when I was having internships. By the way, if you are in the field of computer science or anything, I highly recommend you have internships. They set you up for really well in the future. I still remember the things I learned during my internships even today. So anyway, so that was during having an internship when I was working, and I had the colleagues right next to me. I asked my colleague, "Hey, we're just kind of chit chatting," and I asked him, "Hey, what do you want to do? Like, what do you do during the weekend? What do you do for fun?" And he was like, "I program," and I'm like, "What?" It's like I will program at work. I go home and do my own programming. That's where it's like, okay, I don't think I'll ever be as good as he is when it comes to programming. However, that type of training in technology set me up really well because later on I got to be in tech field. That even though I changed my career from computer science from engineering to into marketing to business, but having understanding what engineers talked about, understanding technology is really helpful, especially later on when I become an entrepreneur. I own my own company. I have a tech arm of my company. And I get to talk to engineers like a product manager, right? I get to talk business to them, but also I understand what they're doing. I understand what their coding is. I don't do it. I hire them to do it, but I understand what they're doing, and that's really helpful if they can speak their language. So yeah, so that's the type of computer science I went into.
When I think computer science classes really help you with those computational skills, or thinking logically, and that's interesting that you have this now business background. And when people make a change in their trajectory or they're going down a path, some people just keep going. How are you brave enough to make that switch from computer science to business and then back to the tech world? What advice would you give students to say if you think that you need to make a change? Why were you able to do that?
Yeah. So why, like, how, or
how are you brave enough to pull that off, Jiang? Because I think a lot of times people just keep going, and then for you were brave and you said, nope, this isn't right. I'm going to switch my path.
Right. As I mentioned that, what they say, how do you find your right career? Or even mission in life, it's almost like a Venn diagram of three circles, right? If you hit all three nodes, then you have a great, you're probably gonna have a pretty good career. One thing is, what are you good at, and the second thing is what you're passionate about, like what you're interested in. Like most people focus on a lot of people talking about passion, right? But if you're passionate about cutting papers, it's probably not a great career, right? So you gotta have to be what you're really good at, what you have passion, and number three is what people will pay you for, like what economic value you can bring. So if you can do something that's you love, you think you're having fun doing this, if you don't feel you're working, you feel you're like and when you're doing this, you're doing a pretty good job. Like you're at least as good, if not better than everyone else, right? And so number three is if people are willing to pay for you. So if you hit those three nodes, then you feel you can stay in this career and excel. So in my case, I feel like I didn't have the passion for coding. I had the passion for technology. I didn't have the passion for programming. And also, I wasn't good at it. So it was very much, people are paying me for it, but after a while, I feel like I'm trading my time for money, right? If I don't, one, I'm not good at this. Two, I don't have the passion for this. So, yeah, so if you feel like there's something that's hitting all three nodes, keep going. If you feel like you're not hitting the nodes on the three, and then maybe that's time for change.
But I think that switching gears to your rejection therapy, your 100 days of rejection, and you students, you should subscribe to Jiang's channel if you haven't already, because it's phenomenal. I just wondered, can you share two of your favorite rejection therapy experiences? What were they, and what made them stand out in your mind?
Yeah, so other than the ones that I shared in the talk, and I got two that I talk about them all. They're all really fun. One is I went to Costco, and there's a lot of. I mean, I love Costco, by the way. At Costco, you get all of you will start loving Costco when you hit a certain age. When you start having families, when you don't have to feed yourself, you have to start feeding your families. You love Costco. It's just you buy a lot of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Now, one day I went to a Costco and said, "Hey, can I speak on your intercom to your students? I mean, to your customers?" And the guy was like, "No." And the manager wouldn't let me do it, but he was very nice to me. So, and I said, "Well, I started negotiating, and I got here's my membership card. I love Costco. You can see it. I spent a lot of money here, and I just want to use the intercom to say nice things about Costco to your customers." And he was like, "Oh, thank you for being a great customer. I mean, member. If you want to say nice things about our store, why don't you write an article about Costco to our membership magazine? It's called Costco Connections." It's like a bad movie name, Costco Connection. And I was like, "No, I just don't use the intercom." And he asked me like, "Are you hungry?" I'm like, "Excuse me?" It's like, "Are you hungry? Sorry, we can't let you use the intercom, but I can buy you dinner." And I love that. I mean, that you're a valued member, and you can go get whatever you want, for you and your family. So I walk out of that Costco with a lot of pizza and a hot dog. How can you not even be a bigger fan of Costco after that? I use this example to show that sometimes when you say no to people, when you give rejections, not just take rejection, but give rejections, there are ways to do it that you're not destroying your relationship with the other people. So he was very nice. He was direct. He wasn't like trying to give me a lesson. He was just very direct. However, he learned what I wanted. He was like, "You're trying to say nice things about our store. Why don't you write an article?" So he was finding me an alternative to get what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, when everything failed, when that didn't work, and he just gave me something. He gave me a gift, right? You go have pizza and hot dog. So there are ways you can say no to people too. That's a way that when I say no to people now, that's all. I always remember that guy from Costco. Meaning, I can learn what the other person wants and show them how to get it. If even that solution is not me, I don't have to feel like I'm a jerk by doing that. So that's one example. The second example is when I went to one request was I want to teach a class, right? I've always been a student, I've always been learning, but I want to teach something. So one day I just went to University of Texas in Austin, and I started just knocking on professors' doors, and I said, "Can I teach your class?" And one professor was interested. It was like, "Okay, what are you teaching?" And so I came in with an iPad loaded on my lecture. So I didn't come in empty-handed. I just I'm gonna do this. I actually prepare for that day because that's something really cool. I come from a family of teachers, generations of teachers. Mm-hmm. And my great grandfather is like a very famous teacher in China. So my grandma has always said, "Hey, Jia, you can be anything you want. That'd be great if you're a teacher." How's that for motivation? So I just want to do something cool that day. So, I wasn't a teacher, and I didn't want to be a teacher. I want to be an entrepreneur, right? But that day, that request, I just want to feel like what is a teacher. So that's why I came in prepared. I have an iPad loaded with my lecture, and I was showing him, the professor, what I want to do, and he was like, "Oh, that looks good. I mean, wow." So he was like, "Okay, I can do it. So I can set you up with a guest lecture, and you can have my whole class." So a couple months later, he invited me to his class, and I gave him my class. I taught my class. And when I finished, the students give me a standing ovation. And when I was walking out of the classroom, I just had tears in my eyes because I felt my grandma was there with me that day. Just looking at me, just fulfilling my family legacy. And also, it goes to show that sometimes you and your dreams are not that far away. You just go and ask and come in prepared. You give yourself a shot. So those are some of my favorite rejection requests, other than the ones I talked about in the talk.
I did watch the one about you teaching, and that was really moving. And so, students that could check that one out. It's really great to see. Here's a question about someone about the dream. Why were you so determined to chase the American dream? And what is your definition of the American dream? Being the next Bill Gates.
Yeah. So the American dream, there's a classic version of this where you kind of live in the suburbs, right? You have a job, you have a family, get a house, get a dog, get a car, and get this family, have this life of where you have economic security, right? That's the classic example of the dream. But in my case, there's the higher level of that is having the freedom to go after your dreams, to try new things, to try things that's you ask the question, why not, right? That's I think that's Robert Kennedy said this, right? People see things and ask why. I see things and ask why not, right? You ask why not, and then you try to make that happen. You have an idea, make that realized, and even though the ideas might be weird, in fact, the weirder it is, the better it is. And so try to fulfill your intellectual curiosity. Turn your intellectual curiosity into business ideas. To me, that's real entrepreneurship. You find a problem, solve that problem through business ways. That's entrepreneurship. So to me, America provides the best path to entrepreneurship, the best environment for entrepreneurship, and that's why I live in California. I mean, that's why I'm in Silicon Valley. But nowadays, you can be entrepreneur anywhere. You can, we're remote working, and so I know Indiana is becoming like a tech hub. So it's not a bad place to be if you want to be an entrepreneur. So that's my definition of entrepreneurship of American dream.
And this another student had a great question. This is, how do you keep yourself motivated toward your dreams? She said, I find myself getting distracted or discouraged a lot, and I don't really know what tactics to try. Do you have any advice?
That's a great question. And I'll share a secret with you. I'm also distracted even nowadays. Like, distraction is with us, and our minds, our body are not meant to handle the technology that's being available to us, right? The instant gratification and the instant communication, right? The information at our fingertips, they'll sound good, but it's really hard to focus when you have all kind of information that's shooting at us. Every time we'll see something new, our brain has this chemical. It's called a dopamine, right? It gives dopamine like every time we see something short-term satisfaction. And so internet and communication, they can give us the short-term dopamine boost and give us an addiction. So it's tough to actually focus. And that's why when I was reading the Federalist Papers, when I was learning the stories of our founding fathers, how they went through, I'm like, they read many like books that way more than I can ever imagine. No wonder they can write like that. No wonder they can think like that. But now we can't do that. They didn't have internet to bother them. They were sitting back then in rural Virginia, just reading and absorbing knowledge. So for us, it's really tough, So to help that, you gotta try to turn technology into your own advantage, and you can access technology. You can use that as a way to learn instead of we use a way to distract. So if I fill my mind with inputs of all kind of senseless entertainment and gossip and news even all day, then garbage in, garbage out. My output will be like that. However, if I fill my mind with inspiration and with reading, with knowledge, then that's where I can help me to focus on my goals. So I try to use apps that are learning apps. I love Audible. I have for the past few years, I read over 200. I listened to over 200 books. I can't read books now. I just you guys reading books, good for you. But I can't. It's been over 10 years since I sit down and read a book cover to cover. However, I listen to tons of books, and I constantly get knowledge into me. So I've satisfied my dopamine addiction with real knowledge, with inspiration. And with those knowledge, it builds me, it helped me to work toward my goals. So, if you look at my YouTube channel, and you can see that I'm not someone, they say everyone has 15 minutes of fame, right? And I'm sure a lot of you will someday have a moment where things go viral, you're known, people hear about your story, but usually it just comes and goes, right? You see this in news every day, 15 minutes of fame. However, I was able to capture that and turn that into the whole, the went from one viral video into a whole rejection cause because of the knowledge I've accumulated beforehand. I read the books I read, the business books, the communication books, the psychology books, all those things I learned, and I didn't know why they're useful. They were just, I just feel like they were fun. I want to learn. But when the opportunity came, right, when that rejection, when that donut video went viral, that's where I was like, okay, there's a lot of psychology behind what I was doing, and there's a lot of psychology behind what how the other person was reacting to me. So all the things that built up, like I was able to use it when the timing was right. So fill your mind with inspiration, not with entertainment and garbage. So that's my answer. Yeah, go ahead.
That's a great answer, and I wonder about how did you feel when you realized that video was going viral and that you now have almost 6 million views? What was that like?
My first answer is thank God. I'm I believe in God, and I see there's this something is like kind of almost like there's some divine plan in that. So, but on the and I'm still grateful for this today. But other than that, I just feel like, wow, this is like really surprising, and also I might have discovered something big. As an entrepreneur, people think about entrepreneurship is like realizing a cool idea. I mean, there's a certain part of that, right? And don't ever think entrepreneurship is about money, and fame and power. It's really not about that. It's really about ideas, but more importantly, problems. The entrepreneurship is about discovering what's needed, what's the pain point, what strikes a chord, right? If you can discover that, if you can discover a problem that people have, and then use your ingenuity to build a solution for that problem, that's entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. At that moment, I felt, oh wow, I might have discovered a problem that I didn't know. I thought I was the only one that had this problem. As it turned out, everyone's having this problem. Now, if I can be the person who solved this problem, wow, there's opportunities here. So that's what's going through my mind. So there's this amazement, gratitude toward divine intervention, I guess, but also this idea that, hey, I'm gonna have something here. So,
and that's great, being unique and seeing that there is something that needs a solution, and being open to seeing when there is something that's fallen in your laps and you take action and you move forward.
Exactly.
Sorry, go ahead.
So it's like, that's what I was saying, keep yourself prepared with all the knowledge and learning, but keep your eyes open. If you see something, most people just walk through it, right? If you're afraid of rejection, most people are like, oh, that's too bad. Maybe I just kind of avoid rejection now, right? And I was able to keep my eye open and say, all right, I got this problem. Let's have some fun. And when this thing got big, I'm like, okay, instead of just kind of bask in the glory of the 15 minutes of fame, I'm like, how can I turn this into something even bigger than that, even bigger than me, and help more people? So keep yourself prepared, keep your mind open. Keep your eyes open.
That's great advice. And Caleb has a question. It's in the chat panel. It's kind of, it's longish, so you might want to read that, Jaw, but I'll start it. It's a good question. It looks like other students are wanting to know the answer as well. So how much additional schooling should you get after high school? And how much time should you take before going into your career field, like a computer science degree-wise? So it's a great question. And
So
it continues too. So you might want to read it as you're, maybe to give a little bit. It's talking about there's a computer science space is a lot more vast, and sometimes you don't need a degree for good, high-paying jobs.
yeah, okay, that's a great question. Okay, and you're gonna ask different type of people with different perspectives. So I'm not gonna be the authority to tell you what to do. So in my personal example, I've been in Silicon Valley for for 6 years now, so 6-7 years, which is crazy. And I've done hiring. I've hired many engineers. I've been an engineer myself. Having that college degree, having that college training is really important to open the door. And can you, without college degree, just by experience, tell and get a great job? Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. But your odds are like not nearly as high as if you have a college degree. So if you want to work, so my wife works at Google, and I go to Google all the time. I talk to people there. I've spoken like 5 or 6 times at Google already. I've talked to countless engineers or product managers, right? Probably in hundreds of them. I knew one person who did not have a college degree. One person. So it goes to show that, hey, if you just want to have experience, have an awesome college experience, yeah. You have a like work experience without college. Can you have a great career? Yes, you can. That one person did. But the hundreds of others, like they had training in college. So I'm not gonna tell all of you to say college is a must, and it's all different in different, based on your situations and stuff. But in my case, having that college degree and training and the type of experience, it really sets me up for very well later in life. And if you look at statistics as well, America is divided based on college, whether or not you have a college degree. The way you see the world, the way you see upward mobility in society, has a lot of I think college degree is really important. There's a lot of controversy with that nowadays because of debt, the loans and debt. So I'm not saying that I'm not saying there's only one way to succeed. But in my eyes, having that degree, even though you might be saddled with debt for a while, but having that degree, especially in computer science, it can set you up well. So I would personally go, if you are really into research, or if you're like, I got my graduate degree, right? I got my MBA. And that's something I thought for a long time. Even in high school, when I was in rural Louisiana, I read a book. It's called "What I Learned from Stanford MBA." It talked about a story of an immigrant going to Stanford, getting his MBA and what he learned. I don't think I can find that book today, but I thank that book even today, because it gave me the sense of what there's things beyond college, graduate school, and what an MBA is like, and what Stanford is like. And I didn't even know what Stanford was. I just heard the name as like a pretty good college, I guess. But when I was reading that book, it was like, wow, it's like it's going to a great school like that. It's just something I want, So I obtained my my MBA from Duke, and I just had the best experience ever. Like the P type of when I was in high school, when I was in college, right? I wasn't a great student. I'll be honest. I wasn't a great student, and there's no way I thought one day I could get into Duke based on what I was doing. However, because of that dream, because of that book, and it never crossed my mind that this is impossible, right? That dream has always been alive. So that's why even when things weren't going well, when I was even not doing well in school, when I was having financial issues, that dream of being an entrepreneur and that dream of going to a great school to get my business degree never just kind of never went away. And then later on when I achieved it, when I went after it, when I got it, it was the best feeling ever. It's like fulfilling your dreams. And and going to a school like Duke changed my life for sure. It's a great platform for a even bigger, for even better dreams. And also that's where I met some of my best friends in life, and also that's where I met my wife. And that's why I love Duke, and I'm very, and I'm very appreciative of the school, grateful for the school. This is where I met my wife. Anyway, so to answer the question is, I believe in higher education, and if there's something that's part of your dream, don't let it go.
I think that's such an awesome answer and so important for the students to hear. And we are at 10:21. Our session is supposed to end at 10:20, but can I ask you one last question? And
Absolutely.
I want to tell the students, thank you so much for sending your questions. What I might do is send them to Jaw and see if he would answer them later. We'll see. But if you could go back in time, Jaw, to give advice to the 6-year-old you, what advice would you say? Because we got to hear the story of the gift and how your whole feeling of fear of rejection started. What advice would you give your 6-year-old Jaw?
Yeah. Don't care about popularity that much. Okay, don't care about being very popular. And we all want to be liked. We want to be accepted. We all do. That's in our DNA. But if you let that dominate your life, you're gonna make decisions that are not good. The people wanting to be liked is natural, but constantly try to be liked is detrimental. People don't necessarily people's opinion, like people who have the opinion of you, they don't necessarily have your best interest in mind, right? In the world, it's all about all about ourselves. Like no one cares about you as much as you think, and sometimes the way they treat you, they see you, they reject, accept you, is actually a reflection of their wishes and desires, right? So if you do something that's, you feel that's right, you feel that's, that's part of your dreams, you feel that can bring you your meaning in life and happiness in life, if that's not popular, don't care about it. And if in fact, when you do that, you might especially become unpopular because people feel like, wow, she's going after her dream. He's doing something meaningful. I'm not. People's natural reaction is to resent it, to show you you're stupid. That's not a great idea. That's dumb. So if you care about people's opinion, random people's opinion, then that's where you start doing things that you become very mediocre, right? None of the great people, none of them succeeded and achieved greatness by trying to do what's popular and try to fit in and trying to live up to other people's expectations. So read and learn, and learn from the great minds in the history and in the world, and inspire yourself. And then what you want. Get that your own dream, entrepreneurship, being an engineer, or whatever, your own dreams, right? Once you have that inspiration and dreams, go after that and don't care about what people think. Don't care about trying to fit in and make them like you. So,
well, those are amazing words, and I want to just thank you for being our keynote speaker for the inaugural Nextech Navigate. You're an inspiration to those who get to hear you speak. And students, thank you so much for attending this QA session. And Jaw, we wish you great success in the future. And just thank you for sharing your story.
No problem. Thank you, Joe, for having me. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I can't see your face, but I can see how I can feel your warmth. So it's very nice to share my stories, and thank you for all the great questions.
All right, take care, Jaw.
All right, thank you.